We're looking at views of the Harlem River. We'll see some different angles over the next few minutes and imagine that we could be walking the edge. I'm Mary Miss, I'm an artist, and I'm here with Tolga Yilmaz from the Department of Environmental Protection of New York City. I've really been fascinated for years about how rivers are made, that there are many small streams running off cities, small rivers, little streams running off streets, and all of those come together to make a river. We're going to talk about one of the streams, Tibbetts Brook, that feeds the Harlem River today. Tibbetts Brook starts up in Westchester County, flows down through Yonkers, into Cortlandt Park, into Cortlandt Lake. And until the beginning of the 20th century, it went from the lake through a wetland marsh area filled with birds, insects, all kinds of plants. At a certain point, New York City was growing and needed more space, and Tibbetts Brook was taken out of that nice marsh area and put into a sewer. There's a very strange thing that happens when you walk along Broadway above 225th Street. You won't even know about it, but you're walking on top of a small river under your feet, the river in the Broadway sewer. So the sewer and the river have become one. They lead out to the Harlem River, but it's not always such a good situation. If it rains a lot, the area of Broadway above 225th floods, and the combined sewage, street runoff, and Tibbetts Brook overwhelm the treatment plant. Department of Environmental Protection has been talking about, and the community has been pressing for, having Tibbetts Brook taken out of the sewer and put into the corridor that goes along the Major Deacon Expressway. The old CSX tracks are still there, but the goal is to replace those tracks with Tibbetts Brook. So for the past several years, City is Living Lab has been working to try and support this, working with the Bronx Council on Environmental Quality, Community Board 8, with DEP, to try and help sponsor or promote this idea of having the stream taken out of the sewer. We've thought about this in terms of a kind of conceptual framing that we've given the project. We call it Rescuing Tibbetts Brook, one stitch at a time. So we're imagining many small moves that could be made to begin to make this project happen, as well as some larger ones. How can Tibbetts Brook be stitched into a new corridor? One idea is to use the 7 bridges. Those could be very giant stitches that announce this possibility. Other things could be done in a very small way. And we've been working with many artists to help promote this idea. But the idea is that in the future, Tibbetts will once again be a place with birds and plants and fish and insects like it used to have when it was flowing through the marsh. To understand this better, I'd like to ask Tolga a few questions. And I'll start with a question: is this the only river that's in a sewer? Are there other streams in sewers in New York City?
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me. No, this is not the only stream in the sewer. So about 60% of New York City has a combined sewer system. And when I say combined sewer system, that means there's a single pipe that carries both the stormwater runoff and sewage from buildings. So this mix of stormwater and sewage is usually sent to a wastewater treatment plant. However, during heavy rainstorms, combined sewers receive higher than normal flows, and treatment plants, unfortunately, are unable to handle flows that are more than twice the design capacity. And when this occurs, a mix of stormwater and untreated sewage discharges directly into the city's waterways. These events are called combined sewer overflows, or CSOs in short. And we are concerned about CSOs because of its effect on water quality and its effect on the recreational use of local water bodies. And for Tibbetts Brook, when there's a heavy rainstorm, overflow from the combined sewer discharges to the Harlem River. And it is considered one of the largest combined sewer overflow CSO discharge points in New York City. And with the proposed daylighting of Tibbetts Brook project, we would be able to substantially reduce this CSO discharge to the Harlem River.
I really love that term daylighting, but can you tell us what that is? If we use it, sometimes people don't know what it means.
Absolutely. During industrialization period, with population growth and the growth of cities, many of the small streams were buried underground. And stream daylighting is a relatively new approach that exposes some or all of a previously buried river. So with the daylighting process, we're talking about uncovering buried rivers and rooting them above ground once again.
Are there any other rivers that have been uncovered in the city?
As far as I know, Tibbetts Brook will be the first one. There are some other streams uncovered in the Westchester County, Soul Mill River daylighting that took place in the last 10 to 15 years. That's something we have looked at and learned from, the pluses and negatives we looked at, and we are coordinating with them about the process.
I went up to see the stream that's been brought to the surface in Yonkers, and it was just so amazing. You know, there are birds all around, there are all kinds of plants there. It doesn't look exactly like a natural stream, but it's a very beautiful place. I am trying to imagine and have thought a lot about what this stream is going to look like in this corridor. It's not going to look like the natural stream running through a marshland. It's going to be in a straight corridor. But I think it could be still very beautiful and an amazing asset to the community. What are the first steps that you go through to daylighting? How do you do this?
There is a lot of planning and coordination going on. We are working together with the Parks Department. We are looking into acquiring properties in the CSX corridor, as you mentioned. We are coordinating with Metro North because south of CSX is the Metro North property. So there's a lot of coordination going on between CSX, between Metro North, with the Parks Department, and we are putting together some conceptual plans. How would the daylighting work? How would it look like? And also the lake piece, how would the lake improvement work? The frags over there, how are we gonna remove them? What are we gonna replace them with? So at this point, it's all coordination, planning, and getting feedback from the boots on the ground. With your help, with City Living Lab, we are going to reach out to the communities, residents, describe them the plans, conceptual plans, get their feedback, improve, and then finalize the plans.
I know that the State Department of Environmental Conservation is really interested in this project as well. Is this project a high priority in the city for DEP? And why does DEP especially want this project to happen?
It is a high priority. And as I mentioned, there are many benefits of this daylighting project. First of all, the environmental benefits. As we discussed, the CSO discharge, it is considered one of the largest CSO discharge points in New York City. So with the proposed daylighting of Tibbetts Brook project, we would be able to substantially reduce this discharge to the Harlem River. So it is a very critical project for DEP due to environmental benefits. Secondly, there are also health and recreational benefits. There will be a new linear park with a bike and walking path. So in addition to mitigating CSOs, this will help clean the air, help reconnect the community with nearby green spaces, improving life for many residents. We are coordinating very closely with state DEC. They are helping us with the survey piece of the CSX corridor and Metro North corridor. This project is also listed as a long-term project in their requirement.
I'm wondering, how does this relate to federal requirements?
As the city, we have to address and reduce the CSO, the combined sewer overflow discharge. This project, as I mentioned, Tibbetts Brook Daylighting Project, is listed in the long-term control plan. So for the next 10 years or so, we have to make this project happen and then substantially reduce the CSO discharge.
So if you were building a new sewer system in a new city, you wouldn't have combined sewers, would you?
Correct. We would definitely separate sewer systems from the stormwater runoffs.
New York City, having been around for such a long time, is the reason that we have so many of these. I think I remember reading someplace that there are, 120 CSOs, combined sewer outfalls around the cities. Is that kind of near the correct number?
That seems to be right. We have a lot. As I mentioned, there are 60% of our pipes are combined sewer systems. So it's a mix of sewage and stormwater runoff, unfortunately.
What do you think the impact can be on this project by getting the public involved, the neighborhood, the communities nearby?
It is an important project, as I mentioned, because of the benefits, the environmental benefits, the health and recreational benefits. So it is important to raise awareness and explain these benefits to the public and residents. So there's support and community ownership of the project. As DEP, with help from you, from partners like you, City as Living Lab, as I mentioned, we will support a broad range of community engagement activities that will help build advocacy and inform the project design development process, and also create a strong community coalition to activate and maintain the new linear park. So we see the DEP sees this as an opportunity to extend community ownership.
Well, I think at City as Living Lab, we're really interested in this because of the way it's bringing together policy, large-scale initiatives with on-the-ground advocacy. It seems that if everything just comes from the top down, people don't even understand the benefit of a project like this, which will cost many millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
But if people can understand the benefit to their own health and well-being and not having to have flooding, I think it makes it much more real and meaningful to them. This is part of a larger project that we're working on at City as Living Lab called Broadway 1000 Steps. And we started about 10 years ago envisioning Broadway as the green corridor of New York City. And this area from 225th Street up to Cortlandt Park, up to the top of the city limits, is the first section that's really coming together. You know, we can imagine Tibbetts Brook being in place. We can imagine green roofs on the big box stores along the corridor. We can imagine the Green Streets program happening with the help of DEP, getting bioswales in, street trees. So I think that we're particularly excited about this and would love to see the Harlem River return to being a well-used and healthy river for everybody. Are there any last things you would like to say?
No, I think you covered it all, but I'm also very excited to be the project manager for this extremely important project. And I'm looking forward to working with you, working with the bigger team I mentioned, with the Parks Department, Cortlandt Park Alliance, and reaching out to community officials and also residents and presenting these conceptual plans I mentioned and getting their feedback and making this project a success.
Well, Tolga, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. This is only going to happen by making this a joint effort. As you said, all of these partners, the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, Community Board 8, Bronx Council on Environmental Quality, everybody's coming together. And the more that we can get the people who live and work in the neighborhood involved, we think the better chance we'll have of it happening. So thank you.
Thank you.